Pledge of Allegiance.
And some of the areas in which we are looking to improve for future iterations of the program. So as a general overview, we are a state licensed program, which means that we receive certification from the state of Michigan. We are open to ages 5 through 12, and we operate out of the Detroit Curling Club. Previously, we were at the Kula Community Center, and yeah, we have weekly themes every week. We have a maximum capacity of 50 per week on a typical time. We are technically licensed to handle up to 100 kids per our programming and our site license through the state of Michigan. But when you go above 50 kids, you run into issues of staff to camper ratio. Typically, you need to maintain a staff to camper ratio of 1 to 10. And when you are below 50 kids, the director and assistant director, any administrative staff that you hire on can be included as part of that count. When you go above 50, they are no longer counted, so you have to hire additional staff. So for years, we've remained below or at 50 in order to comply with those rules. This year, we ran into some issues that you see. I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Emmanuel. I'm the recreation manager for the Ferndale Parks and Recreation Department. I've been here since 2013, and since I've been here, summer camp has kind of been my baby. So I'm proud of like the growth and everything that we've experienced. But with that comes some growing pains. So since we came back from COVID, we've noticed a marked increase in interest in summer camp. We've sold out summer camp every year since 2016. But since we come back from COVID, that was around the time where we started to see some of these crazy numbers. In 2022, we sold out in 48 hours, and we were, oh man, that's pretty crazy. And the next year we came back, we sold out in 2 hours. And at that point, we're telling parents and everybody, hey, please be ready to go ahead and register as soon as registration opens. We have registration this year, and you can see, sold out in 3 minutes. Needless to say, we were not prepared for that. We knew that we had a high demand for the program, and this demonstrates the community need for the program. It fills a gap in which kids are no longer in school for the summer, and they needed additional programming and things to be a part of to be active throughout the summer. But 3 minutes caused us to question some things. And we knew that we had parents that were on time, that were looking to register in a timely manner, but were still not able to get into the program. And in order to try to ensure some level of fairness for those people, we decided to take measures to open up registration to an additional 30 spots per week. To do that, we had to confirm it with the state to make sure that, as I said, we are licensed for that many people, but we needed to make sure that it wasn't going to be an issue for us changing our capacity during the season. We needed to confirm with field trips and vendors to make sure that they would be able to handle the added additional capacity. We needed to secure additional transportation. Thankfully, God, thankfully that we were able to secure a second bus in order to facilitate this year. And we also needed to hire additional staff, which also presented its own challenges, but we'll talk about that in a bit. So we increased the capacity to 80 kids per week. It's the most that we've ever taken on in the history of the program here, at least. And it's good that we were at the curling club and not the Cooley Community Center in order to do that, because there's a wider area and a large park to take advantage of, even though this was one of the rainiest summers that we've ever experienced. We extended the number of sessions from 9 to 10 in order to further assist the parents during that gap between when summer camp ends and when school begins. This year, we actually ended up running right up against the start of school, so a lot of parents were happy with that. And we made sure to register from the wait list prior to opening it up to the public when we actually got around to opening it up to those additional 30 spots. We ran into some issues with that, but we ended up getting it all done. So summer camp is broken down, as I said, into weekly themes. And with those themes, we have different activities, different programs, different special events that we put on as part of those. Some of those examples are the Camp Olympics, the annual talent show, the creature feature, which I think you saw the picture of me holding the alligator a little bit earlier. That's where that's from. Cirque Among Us, and Water Wars. The talent show in particular this year was one of my favorite things to be a part of, because usually when we hold a talent show, kids will be kids sometimes. You'll have them booing other kids and acting inappropriately from time to time. We didn't experience any of that this year. Every time somebody came up to do an act, everybody was completely positive and motivating them and supporting them and making sure that everybody felt welcome. I didn't have to tell them to do that, which was the amazing part this year. They just did it, which I was like, oh, wow, that's crazy. So I want to give a shout out to all of my summer camp kids for that beautiful experience. We also make sure to take field trips on a regular basis. We always take at least one field trip per week, sometimes two, depending on what the week is and what the cost benefit is to the field trip that we're trying to put on. Some of the ones we took this year include the Henry Ford Museum, the Detroit Zoo, the Michigan State Capitol, in which we went there for a particular event that was happening on the Capitol lawn that MParks was putting on. We went to the Michigan Science Center, and we went to the Red Oaks Water Park. I put this slide here to highlight some of the partnerships that we rely on in putting together our summer camp program. The Meetup and Eat Up program is particularly beneficial. It's done through Ferndale Public Schools, in which they are able to provide us with hot lunch meals as well as breakfast. So the kids come in, they have breakfast available to them at 9:30, and then at 11:30 they have hot lunch available to them. It's a varied menu from day to day. They release that lunch schedule at the start of the summer so that parents are prepared to be able to go through, see where their child's dietary restrictions are, when they need to pack cold lunches, so on and so forth. Why on the Fly? The YMCA has a program where they bring out some of their community leaders to do games and activities with the kids. This year we were able to get them to come out on a regular basis every Wednesday morning. And they would have different lawn games. Nothing particularly crazy, but they were a huge help to give our counselors some assistance in helping them build up their arsenal of games and activities to do with kids on a more regular basis. And then Oakland County has a RAP grant that we apply to every year. And through that grant, we are able to get certain days where we have inflatables come out to the camp. We have a planetarium star lab come out to the camp, and we have some nature people that are able to come out to the camp, all free of charge through this grant. We can't thank Oakland County enough for putting that out on a regular basis. So some areas to improve. This summer was, with the increase to 80 kids, several things became apparent to me that needed to be fixed in order for us to facilitate that additional load of kids. So there are some areas in which we need to improve. Obviously, the registration is the first one. And I think one of the things that we're going to do is make sure that we're prioritizing resident registrations first before we open it up to the general public. That'll be something that we'll address for next year. We'll also do more in-person registrations ahead of time rather than opening it up online, because I don't think selling out in 3 minutes, while that seems like a great thing, it creates some headaches for the community at large. So we want to try to minimize those as much as possible. And then we'll make some changes to the wait list. We were running into issues last year where we were having trouble tracking people down from the wait list. So this year we decided to open it up to everybody at the same time. So whenever a spot opens up, everybody gets the email, and the first person to register for it gets the spot. Which I don't think is the best way to do it, but it was what we had to do at the time. So next year we're going to change it so that we will allow people to register for their spot on an individual basis, running down the wait list for at least the first couple of months. Once we get into the summer camp season itself, then we'll open it up to everybody registering for it at the same time. It just reduces the amount of work that goes into making sure that we have all of these spots filled in a timely manner so that people aren't making alternative plans and everything. Some of the storage and access solutions in the space, we'll talk about the space in a little bit, but one of the things that we want to work on is making sure that we have adequate storage solutions and access solutions for kids to be able to go and get equipment, to be able to go and get craft supplies, and to be able to put them back where they belong. And then communications, we put out a weekly newsletter for the parents. And we also, like I said, the lunch schedule is posted online. We make sure to blast that out to all of the parents that are registered as well. There are some things that we could be doing better in the curling club to be able to take advantage of that space. They have a line of TVs that I would love to be able to put photos up on and put different general announcements and everything, as well as some other things that I'm thinking to help the program. Some of these other ones are larger barriers, though, that have more involved solutions, or solutions that I or our department are just not able to take care of at this time. One of those things is staffing. Finding qualified talent to do this job continues to be a difficult endeavor. Retaining that talent is also an issue as well. So that's something that we'll be talking with different city staff and as well as other communities to see what are some of the things that we could try to do to help boost this talent pool that we have to work with. The director's role is a little bit too broad. Right now, the director, because I was doing the director's job for so long, I just got used to it being that way. But I'm realizing now that the director's role is not as involved with the kids as it needs to be. So I'm going to break that up a little bit to share some responsibilities amongst different individuals that are hired for the camp. And then maintaining year staff, as I said before, is difficult to retain and make the people want to come back year after year. So that's something we'll be working on. And then the operating space. We are thankful to have the curling club as an option to be able to host this summer camp program. That said, it also has its limitations. If you've ever been to the curling club, you know that there's an upper lobby area and then a main curling floor. That main curling floor is where we host the majority of our summer camp operations. And the idea is that we have access to the entire park to be able to spread the kids out and make sure that they are doing different activities and involved in different things. But when you have a rainy season like we did this year with 80 kids, all packed into that area, it became apparent that the environment is entirely too overstimulating. That's something that we will try to work on in breaking up different areas of the floor to make it a little more conducive to a smaller group play. We also don't have a space to be able to have smaller, quiet conversations with kids. So a space to go and take them to calm down and have a one-on-one discussion or anything like that. Right now, that stuff has to happen in the lobby, or it has to happen outside when there are no kids there. But that's not necessarily the best practice, especially when kids are curious and want to come up and see what's going on. So that's something that we'll be working on. And it's also a little bit far away from the park amenities. That's just a general issue, but that's not something I'm expecting to have anything done for. So that's it for summer camp. And talking about youth sports now, we'll work into the Quad City Alliance, the Youth Officials Program, and a brief overview of the sports that we put on for the community. So our Quad City Alliance is with Hazel Park, Oak Park, and Pleasant Ridge. And basically, it's a pooling alliance where we're able to share resources and we're able to share facilities and increase the level and diversity of competition that we have available for our different leagues. So our basketball games, for instance, those are played at both Ferndale High School and Webb Elementary. Our soccer games are played all over the place. All of the teams from those communities all play in the same leagues and play against each other in the various different levels of competition across these different sports. And that creates opportunities for us to expand the service that we're able to deliver to the kids. It's been a huge benefit. Ferndale is the one that typically takes the lead on a lot of those. But it is excellent to, we rely on our community partners to be involved in these leagues, and we're thankful for their involvement. We also have a youth officials program that was kicked off in 2018 by Lisa Bryant, our former deputy director, and that has since been coasting along, and we're looking to expand it a bit. What it is, we take kids that sign up for the program, I believe it's ages 14 to 17, if I'm not mistaken. And we train them to officiate in the youth sports. Right now, we have youth officials for soccer and basketball. We're also looking to expand that into having youth umpires for our youth baseball programs. And it gives them the opportunity to get trained and take those skills and apply them to other communities where they can earn additional money as well. It also increases the pool of available officials that we have for youth games. Officiating for youth sports has gotten quite expensive. So this is a great measure to help us reduce the overhead costs of the officials that we bring in to officiate our games, as well as provide a benefit to the community, especially in that teen demographic, which is something that we're trying to program a little bit more for. And this is a quick, there's a lot of text, but it's a quick overview of the youth and adult sports that we have. Right now, our largest sport is youth soccer. We have regularly at least like 250 or so participants in those various leagues. Those leagues run from age 3 to 12, and they're generally played at Harding and Martin Rose Parks. It's the fastest growing sport that we have. When I first got here, we barely had a soccer program. For it to be and I can tell you, like, soccer is all the kids want to do now, apparently. So, like, I had like 10 or 12 kids during summer camp that would bring their own soccer balls to camp in order for them to be able to play. So it is a huge interest among the community right now. We also have youth baseball and softball, which are played in spring and fall seasons. That is up 12% in participation from last year. And we also have our Little Eagles basketball program, as I mentioned, that's played at Webb Elementary and Ferndale High School. With that league, we actually added a girls basketball league at the request of the community. They came to us and told us about how sometimes as the kids grow older, the girls that are participating in our co-ed leagues are having less fun because it's getting a lot more competitive, a lot more physical, and a lot more of that. So we decided to, at the community's request, implement a girls-only league. Went off without a hitch. It was a huge success, and we are going to be bringing that back for the 2025 season as well. We also have adult softball, which is our largest adult sports league that we have. We have various competition levels for that. There's men's competitive, there's co-ed teams as well. Most of them are co-ed, actually. This year we implemented an adult drop-in soccer program that would see adults with the opportunity to come and play drop-in soccer games at our various parks. We had 29 registrants for that, and we are looking to, depending on the level of participation that we get in future iterations of the program, we're looking to expand that into adult leagues as well. And then we have our aquatics program, which takes place at Ferndale High School. This year we had community classes that included parent-taught swim, water aerobics, and open lap swim. We had 62 participants in that. We're looking to expand on that partnership and keep that going for as long as we can. All right, special events. We're going to talk about Safety Town. We're going to talk about the Gary Park Skate Jam and our movies in the park. So the Safety Town Bike Rodeo, we opened up an event for the community to come out and learn about traffic safety at our Safety Town pad, which is at Garber Park on 8 Mile. It was a family-friendly event for them to learn about such things. We received support from the Ferndale Fire Department, who was a huge help in coming out and doing fire truck tours and doing some sidewalk CPR and passing out some goodies. We also had Officer Roth from the Ferndale Police Department, who came out and actually ran through the different traffic safety factors that the kids needed to be mindful of and walk through the course with them. And it was completely free to all participants. We passed out a bunch of stuff. We did bike licenses. We had a few bike helmets that we passed out, and we also did a bunch of bike accessories that we passed out, including reflectors and different safety gear and things like that. We also had our Gary Park Skate Jam, which is taking the place of what used to be the Gravity Art Fair and Skate Contest. It's a family-friendly event. We had different skate park contests that included BMX, inline skating, skateboarding, and scootering. We received support from that from fire, police, and DPW, who, again, were hugely beneficial to us in helping us putting this program on. And it was also free to all visitors. Now, we charged a nominal fee for the competition itself, but to come out and participate in the bounce houses, the lawn games, the music, the family-friendly atmosphere, that was all free. And then we had a series of movies in the park, which took place over the course of the summer. The first one was the Pajama Movie Party, which takes place in the Detroit Curling Club. All of these are completely free as well. But that one was where we saw Kung Fu Panda 4. It takes place in the Curling Club on the main floor. Prior to that, we had Oakland County bring out some play equipment and some blow-ups and inflatables and things for the kids to participate in before the movie actually started. Then we have our annual parking night, which took place on July 18th, which we saw Migration. There we have lawn games, we have vendors, we have food trucks and things of that sort. And then a more subdued one was the movie on the Hill, where we saw Despicable Me 4. We placed our movie screen at the base of the hill and allow people to sit on the hill at Martin Road Park and watch the movie. Some additional highlights, I want to talk about the senior programming. This year, the seniors got the opportunity to take part in the Grand Experience, which is a trip that they took to the Grand Hotel at Mackinac Island. It was a 3-day trip. It was a lottery that we had to win in order to actually participate in this. So we're thankful for M-Parks to putting that on for us. And we, as you can see, the seniors had a great time while they were there. They had a bevy of activities for them to participate in. We also have new programming, including a storytelling class that takes place, I believe, on Wednesdays at the Incubizo, where we're currently stationed. That class has people that come in and are, telling their individual stories and personal stories. They're building more of a community to be able to talk to each other about various different things. And we had an increase in smart ridership and senior activities. We are slowly creeping up and returning to pre-COVID levels. We're hoping to continue that momentum as well. And then lastly, we have park and pavilion rentals. We had a total of 133 pavilion rentals and 109 athletic field rentals. Our pavilions and fields are scattered throughout our 14 parks, and we'll have new amenities that will increase the availability of pavilions coming in the future. Keep pushing this back in. We just need to keep it out. And looking forward, we have our Ferndale Fall Festival that'll be taking place on October 5th. There we have loads of games and activities. If you've never been to the Fall Festival, we have hay rides, we have horseback riding, we have carnival games, music, prizes, candy, all of that good stuff. We have bounce houses, we have rock climbing walls. All of it will be taking place at Martin Road Park. We also have pumpkin painting as well. Thanks to Painting with a Twist for that. And for anybody that wants to register for it ahead of time, it is $8 before September 29th, I want to say, and then it's $10 per person after that. If you would like to register, there's a QR code here that you can scan that'll take you directly to the registration website. We also have our Santa at Schiffer event coming up that we put on in partnership with our Downtown Development Authority. There we'll have various crafts. We'll have letters to writings to Santa. We'll have s'mores and hopefully some cookies again. We got to see if we can get that again. Um, and we'll obviously have the opportunity for kids to come and greet Santa, sit down on his lap, take some photos, tell Santa what you want, drop a letter in the mailbox, all that good stuff. That'll be coming up on December 7th this year. That one is a completely free event to the public. In our youth sports, we have our Little Eagles basketball that I talked about earlier. That registration will be starting on September 30th, and games will be played in January of 2025. They typically run through until about March. And those have co-eds and girls leagues available for grades K through 6. The QR code there will get you to the registration site. There's nothing there right now, but when registration opens up on September 30th, you'll be able to go ahead and register for the league of your choice. And then finally, in park updates, we have the Wilson Park project that is well underway, that is nearing completion at this point. I was just out there the other day, and this is where I got the photos of them putting up the playground equipment. There are still a few components that need to be implemented. We still have the pavilion that'll be going up there that will be available for rent next year. And we anticipate that the project should be finished by the end of the month, and we'll be holding a ribbon cutting ceremony in October sometime. And then the Martin Road Park improvement projects, I'm starting to not be able to speak. Those are well underway as well. Right now, they are working on tearing out the foundation of the old concrete pad there that is going to be turned into the full-size basketball court and the 4 pickleball courts that will be installed at the park. That project will also see a walking path that connects the parking lot to the main walking path, and will also install a new pavilion in place of what is currently a quarter-size basketball court. So we anticipate those construction efforts will be done by the end of the year. And that is it for me.
So I do have a question. In the beginning of your presentation, you showed 4 cities, including ours. Is there any discussion or any maybe possible intent to include Royal Oak Township in that? Because I know for a fact that they have some sports that they're trying to bring up for the kids in that community as well. So
I don't have the answer to that, but I'm more than willing to open up the discussion with them.
the council for any questions?
No, I kind of along the same lines as the mayor's comment. The Quad Cities concept is really great. Love that we have that for our sports leagues. Maybe there's a possibility for us to expand that to cover more recreation type activities that are,
For sure.
if we're sharing this burden together, maybe we can accomplish that. The camper need the staffing need for campers and, cover that.
One of the things that I'm thinking about. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, love that. Thank you. This was
you.
great, Emmanuel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is the presentation regarding Vester Flats project update, 141 Vester.
Good evening. I have a USB. Oh, it's already up here. Okay. Thanks. Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I know you've heard about this project before, but I know it's been a couple years, and I'm really proud of where this project has come and how it's evolved. I think it'll better suit the community and something that will serve the city of Ferndale better. My name's Matt Walters, and today I'm presenting first on the Vester Flats project, which is located at 141 Vester. There's a map of the site. There is a master plan map that shows that the site is located in the downtown corridor, or the DDA. I represent the Walters Group, which is a commercial real estate development company. We own industrial, boutique office, and multifamily all in Southeast Michigan. For this project specifically, the architect is Krieger Klatt. The general contractor is O'Brien Construction, although that is might change. And the civil engineer is Cyber Keist-Lenner. And Eric Toomey is here tonight with me as well, who's a partner in this project. So I believe you all know the site. It's just east of Woodward on Vester Street. This is a picture of the existing parking lot that's there today. And as you saw on the first slide, this is a rendering of the project that is proposed. Since you saw it a couple years ago, the materiality, the renderings, the imagery, and what was approved as part of the PUD zoning has not changed. More pictures of the project. Limestone base with obviously brick on the second to fourth floors. Balconies that go on the back side of the building. So this project is 72 apartments. It's a mixed-use project with a ground floor retail component of roughly 1,600 spaces. 1,600 square feet. So before, when the project came before this body, it was 25% affordable housing. That ranged from 50% AMI to 80% average median income. I'll get into those rents later in the presentation. And today, the project has shifted to 100% affordable and attainable housing. So there's deeper affordable housing. We kept that 25%. That ranges from 50% AMI to 80% AMI. And then again, I'll get into it more in this presentation, but added more 80% AMI apartments and also 100% AMI apartments. Again, there's retail on the first floor in the southwest corner of the building, and then amenity space, which is represented in the yellow in this slide. Amenity space that includes bike storage, a gym, a package room, mail room, property management leasing office, and then a front lobby that has some desks and I wouldn't say co-working space, but space for folks to be able to open up a laptop if needed. And then the purple that's highlighted here represents where the commercial retail will be located. Other amenities and project details that are a part of this deal, there's 52 partially covered private parking spaces. It's a podium-style project, and so back up here, you can see the podium on the first floor, and so when I say partially covered, you can see there's some parking spaces that are underneath that and some that are exposed to the elements. As a part of that, those parking spaces, there are 8 EV charging stations. We are going to bring conduit to every parking space in the parking lot, but right now we're going to install 8 EV chargers. It's a lot more financially feasible, or efficient, I should say, to bring conduit before you pour the asphalt. And so in the future, over the next 5-10 years, let's say we can install, as EV chargers or EV cars, I should say, get more popular, we can install as many EV charging stations as needed. As I said, there's a bike storage room that'll hold up to 82 bikes at a time for the residents of the building. As everybody knows, it's in close proximity to the 9 Mile and Woodward intersection, which is home to a smart bus station. So it's close to a TOD activated streetscape, which I talked about with the commercial corridor, and then the lobby area. Even though the amenity space is not retail, it will be windows and it will be activated because of the gym space in the lobby. Let me back up the alley, which you can see here. We moved the building to the east off the lot line, and so that allowed for I believe it's a 6 or a 7 foot sidewalk that's raised up from the alleyway itself. We will be replacing the alley as a part of construction and making it more, it's obviously very pedestrian friendly today and it's used heavily by pedestrians, but we're going to try to make the aesthetic a little more looks more like an area that folks would traverse, and so it's going to be stamped concrete. You can also see there's a mural on the western side of the building. So this faces the alley that I was just referring to. This mural will be, I don't want to say painted, but the artist will be from the city of Ferndale. And we're going to work with the city of Ferndale to create some type of art fund. Our assumption is that the mural will cost about $15,000 or $20,000. That'll be funded by the project, and any remaining dollars will go towards art in the city of Ferndale if that whole $20,000 is not used for that mural by the local artist. And then also there will be an exterior bike rack and sitting area. It's small, but it's along the alley, kind of the northwest corner of the building, of the footprint, I should say. So this project is roughly a $22.5 million project. The MEDC, which is the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, state of Michigan, is supportive of this deal. The Oakland County Housing Trust Fund is supportive of this deal, as you can see by the figures that are in front of you. And then equity from the developer is $3.2 million. And then a senior loan, because this is an affordable product and the whole building is now attainable or affordable. We have 2 banks at the table right now that are going to come together and finance this project as a partnership, and they only do affordable housing projects, or attainable housing projects, I should say, more mission-driven debt. And then the uses, bless you, you can see is divvied up between the acquisition of the site, the construction costs, and the soft costs for the project. Just for everybody's, these are kind of industry terms. Construction costs speaks for itself, but soft costs are like architectural drawings, engineering drawings, building permit costs, things that are not part of the actual hard construction costs. And the reason I'm here tonight, this project would not be possible if not for a payment in lieu of taxes, so a pilot. This body in the city of Ferndale has approved pilots in the past, I believe. I'll get too over my skis, but pilots are used for workforce, are only used in the state of Michigan for affordable housing, attainable housing, workforce housing. That's what they are meant for and only meant for. It's a MSHDA, Michigan State Housing and Development Authority tool used around the state of Michigan for this specific type of housing, not market rate. And as I said, without the pilot, it'd be very difficult and infeasible. And also, as I said, I cannot thank Oakland County, City of Ferndale, MEDC enough. This project is truly a public-private partnership, and it just like the pilot, it would not be possible without the public bodies. Obviously, the state of Michigan Oakland County, City of Ferndale, housing is a huge priority, but not just market rate housing. Attainable housing is a huge priority because there's a housing shortage, as everybody knows and everybody hears about in the United States, but definitely in the state of Michigan as well. And a housing shortage for incomes that are all, that we all need dearly. And I'll get into that more when I get into the rents and the types of the demographic that this project will serve, if approved by this body. So a little bit on the pilot. The taxes today on the site are roughly, the property taxes for today on the site, they're currently roughly annually $15,000, and roughly $5,000 of that 15, when you look at the breakdown of the millage, goes to the city of Ferndale. If the project is built and the pilot approved and put into place, the total property taxes for the site would be $65,000, of which $36,000 would go towards the city of Ferndale. Really, the city would get, it was roughly $21,000, but we also negotiated a municipal services agreement, $10,000, so on top of the pilot. And then I know the city of Ferndale, it's a huge priority right now, replacing lead water lines and water mains. And so we put an additional $5,000 a year to go towards replacing lead water lines, because I know that that's critical, extremely important. Obviously, the health and well-being of the community and the citizens of the city of Ferndale is the #1 priority. And so being able to contribute towards that was something we were happy to do. So back to when I was talking about the income analysis and the rental rates, as I stated, the pilot program allows for the deeper affordable, but also ranging to 120% AMI. So the breakdown of the 72 apartments would be 8.3%, or 6 apartments of the building would be 50% AMI. Again, average median income, let me stop for a second. So average median income is the average income of a resident in a particular county. Obviously, we're in Oakland County. So the Michigan MSHDA, the Michigan State Housing and Development Authority, comes up with AMI rates, a chart, annually every year. And in that chart, it prescribes the rental rates and the income, that the average, I should say, for each county. And so I'm not just coming up with this stuff. This is all driven and dictated by the state of Michigan and MSHDA. So, sorry, to go back to the unit count, roughly 8.3%, 6 apartments will be 50% AMI, 6 apartments will be 60% AMI, 21 apartments will be 80% AMI, 29 apartments will be 100% AMI, and 10 apartments will be 120% AMI. And through this pilot program, this isn't my opinion. This isn't something that I'm, a good to have or I'm going to try to shoot for. This will be in an agreement that will be with the city of Ferndale, and I have to do my part, or the property management company, the ownership group has to commit to do this. Otherwise, the pilot gets taken off the table. So it's we're not doing best efforts here. It's in a legal document, it's a shall. We have to. You can see on the right column the AMIs that I listed off. You can see the incomes. Again, this is in the MSHDA chart that is put out annually. These are the incomes that are related to the AMIs and the rental rates. To take it a step further, and this comes from the Oakland Housing Trust Fund, their data on Oakland County, taking the incomes the household incomes a step further that are associated with the AMIs that I've been describing, you can, excuse me, you can see examples of job types for each AMI, just to try to make this a little bit more real. So for a 50% AMI, you can see security guards, child care workers, library technicians, receptionists. 60% AMI, these average incomes relate to light truck drivers, hairdressers, hairstylists, laborers, and freight workers. 80% AMI, construction laborers, machinists, clinical laboratory technicians. 100% AMI, this income relates to carpenters, elementary school teachers, human resource specialists, and 120% AMI relates to plumbers, pipe fitters, steam fitters. Steam fitters. So, as most everybody knows, this project has been difficult because the existing site is a parking lot. It's no secret, and I do understand and appreciate the fact that this building would be removing parking spaces that exist today. And because of that, the businesses, all for good reason, that are in close proximity to the site are concerned about those parking spaces leaving. And so I've tried over the years and definitely over the last recently to sit down and talk to those businesses to see how I can help. So I'm not just coming in and taking away something that their customers and their employees are utilizing every day. And so in conversations with businesses, Councilmember Miskalski and I sat down. She was at a couple meetings last week on Thursday with several of the businesses. And we heard some concerns from those businesses, which I'll read through. And then I have a response next to each one about what we're going to commit to, because I really do, if nothing else today, please know that I want to be a good neighbor. I want to be a good partner in the city of Ferndale. I do not want to disrupt. I want to come in and help. And I know this project will disrupt in ways, but in the end, I want to be a good neighbor, and I want to make sure that mitigating anything that I possibly can. So some of the concerns. Alley congestion, the alley that I was talking about that's adjacent to the project. Alley congestion during construction and impact on pedestrians, because a lot of pedestrians traverse that alleyway north and south. That's just east of Woodward. We will make sure, commit, the alley will be utilized during the construction, but the project will never block the alley from vehicle and pedestrian use. That's especially on the weekends. That alley, we will not, I'm going to pay for a cleaning crew to make sure that the alley and the street is always maintained, and there's not debris or garbage from construction that's in the right-of-way. Notifying businesses if there will be a utility interruption. Ownership will commit to letting the surrounding businesses know of a utility disruption at least once a week in advance. Do not block on-street Vester parking during construction. A commitment will be made not to block the Vester on-street parking spaces in front of Valentine's Distillery or Scout. Those are two businesses that are on the north side of Vester for more than a couple of hours at most. Those businesses use those parking spaces for their deliveries. And so, it's the lifeblood of a business, is bringing goods in that then can be sold. So we will never in any way disrupt deliveries to businesses, since it's the only way for them to deliver. They don't have alley access to buildings. Construction will cause movement of rodents, specifically rats. I didn't know about this one, and it made complete sense. Ownership will commit to paying for rodent abatement and extermination services to help solve the problem. Ownership will work with the businesses to see how frequently this should be done. So, I'm committed to, if we need an exterminator once a week, I'm happy to pay for that. The project will pay for that. So, and all these things, again, I'm not just saying them. We will be putting them in writing in an agreement with the city of Ferndale. That'll be a part of the pilot. So there are teeth. It's not just me saying it, or it's not just me writing on a piece of paper. There's teeth to these commitments that the city of Ferndale will hold. Construction crews cannot park on residential streets, clogging up the on-street parking, residential, I should say, on-street parking, up and down Vester, Breckenridge, Bermuda. I didn't put this in writing here, but we will put in our construction contract, and I've already started these conversations. Obviously, if things are approved and this project moves forward, we will put in our construction management agreement or general construction agreement that the subcontractors have to park at the dot and be shuttled over. Now, I'm not going to say 100% of the workers, but folks that are there on a daily basis. So if somebody has a delivery and they're there for an hour or 2 hours, I can't commit to like literally every single worker parking at the dot. But folks that are there for more than 3 hours and they're there on a daily basis will park at the dot. And that'll be in our construction management agreement, and the project will pay for that parking. Notification to business owners if there will be intense noise during construction. There is obviously businesses that are adjacent and across the street, and you have your normal construction noise, whatever decibels that's at. I think what we talked about in the meeting last week was measuring decibels, how it is today. No, sorry, that was related to the noise for residents. Sorry. There are businesses that are adjacent and across the street, and you obviously have normal construction noise, but if there is something that's going to be abnormally loud, that's going to impact said businesses across the street or adjacent, or folks that work there, we need to make sure that they're aware of that. And we will do everything we can to make sure we can anticipate, what's happening week after week, and make sure that those businesses know about it. Some existing businesses have louder music and sound coming from their establishments. They do not want the new residents in the apartment buildings to find that to be a negative. Totally agree. Those businesses were there first. So what we talked about is in our leases, excuse me, with future tenants, and when property management or a leasing agent is talking to future tenants, making sure that those future tenants know that after, businesses that run till midnight or 1 p.m., they know that sound is there. They don't, this is where I was talking about the decibel level, measuring the decibel levels and making sure we know what the decibel levels are normally. Now, if they're both the business owners that I was talking to, both businesses acknowledged if it's excessively loud, then of course a call can be made, but not just the normal, what they're normally doing. And then we also built into our architectural drawings significant sound buffering in the exterior wall of the western facade of the building. And also we're purchasing specialized windows that have more soundproof sound buffering than regular, double pane windows. Residents of the buildings not being able to utilize City of Ferndale public parking passes, which would take away from spaces that could be for customers and business customers and business employees. Totally agree. This came from the fact that there's not a parking space for every apartment. And so making sure that because there's not a parking space for every apartment, that the folks, if each apartment does want a parking space, to make sure that they're not taking away from residents, employees, or customers of businesses that are in close proximity to the building. This will take some conversation with the city of Ferndale to strategically figure out exactly how to do this. I can commit to it, but I don't know, like these other ones, I can tell you exactly what we're going to do to mitigate the issue that was raised. This one, I don't know exactly yet, but I will figure it out with the city of Ferndale. There is a solution. That is the conclusion of the update on 141 Vester Flats. Happy to field any questions if there are any.
Give me just one moment. Before we go into the questions or comments, I would actually like to acknowledge our Oakland County Commissioner that's in the audience, Charlie Cavell, and also, I believe, former Oakland County Commissioner Helene Zach, and also County Affordable Housing Trustee. And then we also have, I believe it's Kyle Hines, Oakland County Trust Fund Manager as well. So if you would like an opportunity to speak about this before we go into questions or kind of roll with us as we go, you're
Sure.
more than welcome to.
Sure, Kyle, maybe you could just give a background on what the Oakland County Housing Trust Fund is?
Thanks again for entertaining and listening to this project. I'm Kyle Hines. I serve as the Oakland County Housing Trust Fund Manager. The Housing Trust Fund was created by the Oakland County Board of Commissioners in 2022, is fully approved, but I would say that former Commissioner Zach and current Commissioner Cavell need to thank them for creating this wonderful tool for us to be able to create and fund and invest in affordable mixed income, mixed use housing such as Vester Flats. We have been allocated $18 million of ARPA state local fiscal recovery funds, and the county has also committed an annual appropriation of $2 million of general funds. Our board has approved a $3 million investment into this project to provide the gap funding. We issue this funding in the form of long-term subordinate cash flow contingent debt to the project, which is paid out over time throughout the life of the project. When Matt talked about are the units going to be compliant, the Housing Trust Fund itself, the county staff, our neighborhood and housing division, has a compliance team that will help and serve and provide monitoring so that we know that our SLF dollars that are in there, because if they don't perform, then we have to pay the money back to the Treasury, but that'll be on them based on our agreements. We actually record a restrictive covenant on the land confirming that the units will remain affordable for at least 20 years, but they'll want to continue receiving a pilot, assuming this body accepts that. But I can confirm, we did our underwriting. We looked at this project, and we understand that it's a big commitment for the city. But I just want to kind of speak to this project itself. This is I come from the private real estate world, and then for 5 years I worked at the city of Dallas as the assistant director of the housing department there, where I ran the Housing Finance Corporation for the city. And I will just say, to be able to see a project like this that doesn't have a bunch of tax credits, where it's all super low income and it's not just all and you'll get maybe, or if it's a market rate development where you're getting 2 to 3 units of affordable and it doesn't actually move the needle, to have an actual true mixed income development like this. When this came across my desk, I was extremely excited to be able to possibly work on this development. So we reviewed it, and it made sense, and it checks a lot of the boxes that we at the county are striving for, which is to provide affordable housing, housing that doesn't cost burden our residents, so that they can live and work in the community that they so choose throughout Oakland County. That's, housing is a social determinant of health. So we definitely want to make sure that we're providing affordable housing. And then it's also part of our economic development strategy to be able to provide the housing for the folks that want to live here. And then also, I know that transportation is a big, you know, a big thing that Ferndale's trying to accomplish, and same with us at the county. This site, when I looked at it, it's 40 minutes on the train, or I mean on the smart bus up to downtown Pontiac, and it's 40 minutes to Campus Martius. We prefer people to stay here in Oakland County. However, to be able to have that type of direct access for transportation, it's just great, and it's one of our first projects that we've been able to look at that really has that true transit-oriented development. So that's kind of my spiel on the project. I'm happy to answer any questions about the functions of, you know, the Housing Trust Fund, how we work in more detail, but I won't bore you with the specifics of what a 1% cash flow contingent subordinate debt loan is for the time being. So with that, do you want to say?
Elaine Zach, your former county commissioner, and a person that championed housing starting in affordable housing 2014. Presently, I serve on the Oakland County Housing Trust Fund, and I'm also one of the 2 appointees to the Regional Transit Authority working on better transportation. And I love this project because it's a double hitter. You know, it's affordable housing with transit. And I think it's really, we've always tried in Ferndale to keep this place affordable, and here you have a perfect housing development. I'm impressed with the developers, all the accommodation, understanding, you know, the uniqueness of this community, and I really hope that I can see this go forward here. Thank you.
I'm not as well practiced as Helene and Kyle in talking, so I'm going to bring some notes. But also, I'm here as a Ferndale resident. Just say I'll give you a full county commission rundown after we pass the budget. But as a Ferndale resident, I just wanted to lift up a couple of things that I think might be coming across your minds or might be poignant when thinking about this. So first, I used to work for Habitat for Humanity. So part of my job was doing what Matt was doing and talking to city councils about why Birmingham should have, you know, Habitat homes in Bloomfield Township and stuff. So I think 2 things that I've learned from that are, first, the concerns that Matt was lifting up that I think Councilwoman Mikulski, you talked about with other business owners. Like, yeah, there will be change. You know, like when you make a new road, there's dust. When you build a new building, there's going to be noise, you know. Some construction worker will throw their trash in your trash can. That's just what happens when you build and develop and change things. So I think giving that kind of grace and understanding and truly building trust with not just Matt, but also the $3 million the county's putting in should be recognized, that like we're all in this together. So there will be concerns, there will be complaints, and there will be people that are bothered, and that will be accurate and true. But then the question becomes, what are your values? So is it worth it for people to be bothered for a couple of years building this building, or 12 months, or whatever it's going to take to build this, so that then for the next generation or 2, there will be 72 permanently affordable housing units that will create opportunity for people to live in Ferndale that couldn't afford to live here, to go to schools here that they couldn't go to live a quality of life being in downtown Ferndale that a lot of people envy and desire. Like, that's what I think we need to make sure we hold on to. Is, yes, there will be concerns, and those are valid. Yes, there will be, again, a little bit of unsettling. But then also at the end of the day, you can create 2 generations of families that are able to live here that otherwise wouldn't be able to access all the awesome reasons why we all decided to live here. So just as a Ferndale resident, I think that's awesome. And yep, there you go.
So just wanted to actually thank our county commissioners and Helene Zach, our former county commissioner, for their advocacy and in support of this, because I know, Helene, you've been a champion for this for a long time. And when I found out you were involved, I was very pleased to see that you're still working on behalf of the communities. Questions for Mr. Walters?
Yes.
Open to council. Go first.
The chair, I have a barrage as usual. And I actually wanted to start with you, Kyle, if you don't mind. It's a point of curiosity with the Oakland County Housing Trust Fund. So you said we have 18 million in ARPA funding, and then the county is contributing, was it 2 million from the general fund? I'll try to scoot closer. Is this better? Yeah? Okay. All right. So you have 18 million in ARPA funds at the county level, 2 million coming from the general fund going into the Oakland County Housing Trust Fund. Is that correct?
It's an annual appropriation of $2 million.
An annual appropriation?
General funds.
So this 3 million currently, just looking at the 18 million and the 2 million, accounts for about 15% of your housing trust fund?
Correct.
That's substantial. And I wanted to say that that's substantial and that we appreciate it. Are there any other projects that you've invested in that we can look to see how those are progressing? Or is this just too new?
So, I mean, I don't want to brag or anything, but we had our first board meeting a year ago. And we had to set up and stand up an application process, a review process, get a board. I only joined the county in June of 2023. And so from that time, we had to stand up the application process, go through that whole thing. And since then, this project would represent the last 3 million, and I'd only have $1.4 million of ARPA SLR funds after this one, of which I have tentatively approved for a downtown development, kind of similar to this in Royal Oak, which they've actually authorized an allocation of $2 million of their old ARPA money that they've since recycled that they want to contribute to that project. So it is substantial, and it represents the last little bit of ARPA dollars, but if you're familiar with the time frame, we have to have an under obligation by the end of the. I'm sure you're all very well aware of that. So that's why we're pushing forward with this one, and it's not because I'm trying to spend money and I have a deadline. It's because this project really is something that, as a housing practitioner and someone that it's almost like a unicorn to be able to get a site like this near all of these amenities.
Okay. Follow-up question: the compliance trust fund team. So how does that work? Are they analyzing things on a yearly basis?
So we will have, I have set this up to run similarly to HUD's Home Investment Partnership Funds. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but we have a team on staff that handles all of our, you may be familiar with our CDBG, CVT partnership, where we do compliance for checking incomes on people that participate in our home repair program. They're going to use the exact same method for using a federal standard of income verification for these projects. And the requirement is that when you first move in as a tenant, you have to go through a full income verification using 2 years of source documentation to confirm that you are making 80% area median income. And then after that, they can self-recertify for the next 5 years, and then every 6th year they have to do, if they're still in that unit, they have to do another full source complete income verification document. A lot of times people aren't in there for the whole 6 years, but at the same time, people will cycle in. So if you join up and it's like year 5 of our partnership in the deal in the project, and you go through the whole source income verification process, year 6 comes around, you're doing that twice in a row. And this is based off of federal HUD required guidelines for the Home Investment Partnership Program. This isn't something that we just created. I just took exactly what everybody else does in the country when they're investing federal dollars, and we've recreated that in our deed restrictions and our complete loan agreement that we'll have with the developer.
So weird follow-up to that. Looking at the AMI breakdown that we have, I was under the impression initially that this was going to be completely 100% AMI focused. And are we, I see 10 apartments at 120% AMI. Is that a stipulation through your program?
So for the way our funds are allocated, because I can't commit more, or I can require more, but like, what we're trying to do is make sure that our housing trust fund investment is commensurate, like the percentage that we invest in the project is commensurate with the amount of affordable units that we're having on site. So when we first looked at this, when I first saw the first iteration of this, there was 25% of the units reserved for 50 to 80% AMI. And that's what I've been targeting. I've been targeting for my funds because that's what you'd call low to moderate income. Yes, I can go up to 120% AMI, but for the units that I'm funding, the units that I'm going to deed restrict, we have as a board been trying to restrict it to the 80% AMI below to serve a slightly deeper affordability throughout our projects.
Okay, interesting.
And so it also kind of depends on the area. And this is kind of like housing jargon, but if you have an area where there's a ton of affordability, there's high poverty rates, you don't actually want like the super deep affordability, and you don't want to concentrate poverty. Here, what we want to do is I'm glad we have the 50% units through the 80% units, but if there's an area where we're trying to serve as more of an economic development catalyst, we want to grow incomes, we want to expand, provide new housing stock, and then get new rental comps to actually grow the local economy, then I would probably say, yeah, we want to have more 120% AMI. But once you get up to 120% AMI rents for a family of 3 or 4, I mean, you can generally afford a house at that point. So that's why I'm trying to make sure our units are restricted at 80% AMI and below.
Through the chair.
Oh, yeah. Also, we are under construction on because it has been so new. Sorry, I got sidetracked there. Because we are such a new board, we've broken ground on 2 projects. One using our general funds, which is a for sale, what we're calling a neuro-inclusive community, where half the units are reserved for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and the rest of the units are just general market rate for sale housing. This is in Rochester Hills. It actually provides permanent, and this is one of our health initiatives, is to be able to provide housing for IDD adults. So that's the first project that's underway. They're just clearing land now, and then I have a development on the border of Pontiac and Bloomfield Township along Telegraph. If anybody's aware of it, it's right behind the Menards. You can walk to a grocery store, Henry Ford. But that's a 72-unit development similar to this, and that's actually underway. I toured we toured the construction. They have they're completely topped out on 2 of the 3 buildings that they're building there. So they're underway and they're rocking and rolling, and the first building should be ready for occupancy in January. So the developer would be more than happy to show people around if you want to see it. We do construction draw walks all the time there. So and that has, like with that one, because it isn't an area where there's not a lot of new market rate development. So we just have 25% of the units reserved for 80% AMI and below. The Pontiac Housing Commission is actually going to put provide voucher units to the property, but then the rest of it is not income restricted, not anything, because they're just using regular private debt and equity on the development.
Councilman Parlica.
Okay. Some clarification. So the state MISTA determines the AMI for each county.
It's the state uses data and in conjunction with HUD.
Okay.
So they have their economists go out there and say what the area median income is for this.
Yeah. Well, and see, to me, that's not incorrect. It's not area, because this area is not like the area around Clarkston, so this whole calculation of what our AMI for Oakland, we have more people that have, $20,000 to $30,000 a year salaries than we do $60,000 a year salaries. And so I still have concern that this is still not attainable rent for a lot of people, especially a lot of people who are in this area. Now, that being said, I'm not opposing to the project. I think it's a great project, and I appreciate all of the government entities that are involved in trying to make this project happen. It really is incredible. I just want to go on the record saying that I think there needs to be a different way that we figure out AMI for these type of projects, because I think we're ignoring a huge segment of the population that lives within this area, that wants to stay within this area because they work within this area.
Yeah, and that would be a significant undertaking because we just rely on, like I said, we rely on the data, and this is what so this isn't a tax credit deal. Yep. The tax credit investors, they all have to follow the same thing, and if you were to throw a different pool of data and information for them to use, you're probably not selling those tax credits to tax credit investors. So it's kind of a chicken and the egg type thing. We could, if I knew that it would pencil, say like, hey, we need more deeper affordability, but a lot of the higher AMI units are making it possible, because I really can't give it any more than $3 million on this. It's just,
I understand that, and like I said,
I think some more affordability here. So I'll find the next project for us to work on or something. So yeah, I understand what you're saying though.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not attacking you. It's not, you're at fault. I don't like the way that the current system is operating, because I don't think it really helps those that need the most help.
Yeah.
Through the chair, I have a couple more questions. So the slide that was talking about the $10,000 municipal services agreement, what does that go to, and is it annual? And is this a question for you, Joe?
Yeah, through the chair, we are negotiating that, but we asked and they agreed to provide a dedicated revenue stream to support local services, because the pilot actually, as he said, we don't get 100% of those taxes, right? The taxing jurisdictions get that. So above and beyond that, we're looking at a $10,000 value that we would distribute for public safety impacts for the new residents coming into the downtown. And then I asked if they would support a $5,000 fund to help seed water billing assistance for low-income properties within the community, or struggling properties. We haven't hardened the language around that yet, but in concept, that's what we proposed. And that would be an annual payment, reoccurring, for the duration of the term.
The $5,000 and the $10,000? Okay. And the $5,000 lead service infrastructure donation, how many households does that cover in terms of checks or replacements?
We actually haven't fleshed the language out. This is just in concept, and my concept was really more about providing water billing assistance to households that needed it. But we can still, that's up for discussion with council.
That is interesting, and I would love to have a deeper discussion about that.
So from Mayor Pro Tem Mikulski's question, would the $5,000, $10,000 be relevant for the 30 years?
Correct.
Okay. And I was just looking at a little bit of the background and how it applies, how this project supports our master land use plan. There are some objectives for the master land use plan. One of them being accessibility and connectivity. I get the connectivity, but can you touch on where the accessibility comes in?
Yes, we will have ADA compliant units. By code, we need to have 2, and we've agreed with Joe and Roger to have 4 in the building. And then obviously we have 2 elevators. The building will be sufficiently ADA compliant.
Do you know in what category they would be ADA compliant, those 4, in which AMI category? Are you going to just are they I guess I'm trying to figure out how it fits in
No,
here.
it's a great question. We don't have that figured out, but we can easily, I'm just thinking through it right now. We can easily have those ADA apartments, or most of them, be in the deeper affordable AMIs that we've discussed.
Through the chair, can I piggyback off of that real quick? ADA code compliant, is that the same as barrier-free? And the reason I ask is because going back through the reams of documents associated with this, we had that NEZ committee that negotiated those barrier-free units, and I'm wondering, is this the same?
The intent is the same,
Okay,
yes.
but in practicality, is it the same?
Yeah, I guess I don't know, just being blunt, I don't know the difference between barrier-free and ADA.
You and me both. I'm very,
I would say
very intrigued by it.
whichever is more beneficial to the user, to the ADA user, is what we will do. So if ADA goes beyond a barrier-free, then it'll be ADA.
Through the chair, I'd point out there's no decision tonight, so these are all talking points that staff can take note of. And I do know Roger's listening, our CED director back there, and he can take time to define the building code's definition for ADA. My understanding that's probably going to be a minimum requirement for the ADA laws, and barrier-free is above and beyond that minimum requirement, but we can draw that distinction when this comes back.
Just to maybe just add a little bit of a comment to that. I think that, just for your information, just for you to know, that to be able to fit in ADA compliancy and barrier-free housing, and not just going at the minimum, would be really beneficial to this community. So I just want you to take that into consideration
Definitely.
as you go forward.
I appreciate that.
Through the chair, I've got just maybe two more, I think. Again, going back to that NEZ committee, we had an 11 or 12-person committee that negotiated some, what I thought were really fabulous benefits to the community. One was the affordable housing grant of $10,000 per year. Clearly, that's covered, right? But is there something else that you might be amenable to committing to potentially give back to the community or give back to the businesses on an annual basis? And it's not an answer that you have to.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's something to think about.
More than willing. We should have those conversations so I know what the priorities are.
Yeah.
I don't want to commit to something that the businesses are, they say, well, I wish you would have done this instead. So the answer is yes. Just need to find out what exactly it is.
Right. And then one last one that I've been mulling over for a little bit. Number one, do you happen to know what your interest rate might be when you're, getting this construction loan?
Roughly 8%.
8%. If you experience a refinancing event, would you be potentially amenable to a clawback? And the reason I'm bringing this up, just as a point of edification for the rest of council, I looked into St. Louis, and St. Louis had a couple projects that they had that prompted them to reassess their TIF policies. As part of those reforms, they ensured that there was a clawback provision in the agreements, so that if the developer refinances and reduces their costs, the city can claw back some of the financial incentives, ensuring that the taxpayers are not over-subsidizing a more profitable development. That's really awesome, and I would love to see something like that. No pressure. I know you're at the podium, and it's not a decision for now, but I would love for our team to think about that and for you to think about that, if you're amenable to it.
Happy to explore it.
Great.
I don't know what that does, for going to get debt, but I'm happy to explore it though.
Any other questions?
I have one last one. Sorry, tons of notes here. Who was talking about the rats? Because normally that's me, and clearly I wasn't there for that conversation.
No, you would just, Magic Bag and
Okay,
Tosco,
okay. So
Andy and Jay.
here's my comment on that. When you say abatement, number one, are you doing that at the business or the job site?
Wherever it's needed.
Okay,
And obviously in coordinate, I know when we were at the meeting, it was talked about how there's certain standards at the city of Ferndale, how it's done, you know,
so,
we will abide by all those standards and make sure it's.
and as a point of clarification for the public, those standards, we had a resolution that basically commits us as a city to not use anticoagulant rodenticide.
Yeah, this was talked about.
Yeah,
Yep.
due to the impact on our environment. So you are comfortable making that commitment as well?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yep.
And I just want to, before we go to our next presentation, I want to thank you for bringing this project to Ferndale. I want to thank all the partners involved for it, because these numbers, although to Councilmember Polika's point, I'd like to see, you know, them be expanded at some point, but I'm happy to see that we're going in the right direction. We have a great start.
Agreed.
So I guess more conversations are to be had, and we will cross that bridge when we get to it. There's no action tonight, but I thank you for presenting and updating us regarding this project.
Thank you very much for having me.
Through the chair, I do want to just, I'll close on some of the next steps. So the proposal tonight is for council to consider a pilot. The state legislators amended a housing law in 2022 that enables local cities to adopt MISTA-related pilot agreements without going through the MISTA process. So it's really just empowering local communities to enact pilot payment in lieu of tax incentives specifically to meet the statute requirements for workforce housing. So the next step is for us to review and draft that ordinance, and I'm working with Dan and Ann to adapt a model ordinance that was adopted from the law that was applied first in Traverse City. So we're reviewing that and adapting that ordinance to Ferndale for review for the ordinance committee. So that would be the next step for the ordinance committee to review that. And then once we have reviewed that and have a final version, that workforce housing ordinance would need to be adopted to enable council to consider a pilot agreement. And so that I would expect would take the next 6 weeks or so. That's what we're working on.
Right. All right, moving on to our next presentation. Presentation 180 Vester Project updated from Zoma Investments.
Correct. I'm going to stay up here. Yeah. Stay. So again, my name is Matt Walters with the Vester Flats project that we just discussed.
Good evening.
Mr. Dennis Zoma of Zoma Investments. So because of the impact that Vester's Flats could have if approved at the 141 Vester site with parking, obviously that's been a sticking point and a topic of conversation. The east side of Woodward, because of the popularity of many businesses and establishments, needs more parking. And so Mr. Zoma has been in front of you before, over the past couple of years, about the proposed 180 Vester parking garage. So I have joined Dennis's team to provide development support along with Mr. Eric Toomey. We are Dennis's fee developer and are working with we have a contract where we are working to build this parking garage with him. He is the owner. I'll go to the next slide. I'll go to this slide and then come back. So Dennis is the Zoma of said parking garage and site, which is at the Ferndale Collision site. Walters Group is the owner's representative or the fee developer. We have a construction manager that we're working with now, Colasani. I've known the Colasani team for a long time. They're the premier parking garage construction team in Southeast Michigan because they're an established, I don't know how many years, call it 50-year concrete subcontractor. So they went from being a concrete subcontractor to a general contractor. The law firm is Yaldo and Associates, and the architect and engineering firm is Fishbeck Architect and Engineering. So this building, this is the image at the moment, which you've all seen before. We're working, Dennis and the project team, myself, we're working to make sure the project is financially feasible. And so this image will change. The architect right now, we've been doing some value engineering, but things like fire suppression, mechanical systems, they're not required in a parking garage, and it's making this parking garage a lot more expensive because it's completely enclosed. So not saying, it's going to be an aesthetic and pretty building, but the one thing I can say is it's not going to be completely enclosed because that means that you have to have fire suppression and mechanical systems, which drives the cost significantly higher. So we're going through that process right now. As you can see, the first horizontal up here is the number of spaces. Because we're making the building more efficient, we're working with Colasani and the architect to value engineer and make the building as efficient and financially feasible as possible. The number of spaces has actually increased, and I'll say that's because the retail that was there was very deep. Retail, generally speaking, you don't want retail that's extremely deep because it's inefficient space. You want retail space that is, has, light gets through it, and short and easy to maintain. And so we decreased the amount of retail space, still the same amount of frontage on Vester, so that hasn't changed, but the space at the retail bays just don't go as far back, and so that's allowed for us to increase the number of parking spaces. So it'll be 189 parking spaces. Again, as you can see, the retail space was 5,500 square feet. It's gone down to 1,500 square feet. Total development budget is just about $17.5 million. The approval timeline from where we are right now is roughly 9 months, and we're looking at commencing construction in August of 2025. And it's usually, for a parking garage, a 14-month process to build. Here is a schedule for how we are viewing the project and where we are to date. As I said, there's a lot of estimating and architectural redesign that we are taking into account right now. We're meeting weekly. Sometimes twice a week with the architect and the construction company to figure out exactly the best way to do this, and we've almost come to the point where we have that understanding. And then we will be submitting new drawings and a new project plan to the city of Ferndale. We have talked about a lease with the city of Ferndale in a very preliminary way, where, because this parking garage will have public parking spaces, the city of Ferndale would be a part of operating that public parking. So the financing of the project consists of includes a brownfield tax, a TIF, brownfield TIF, the annual lease payment that I just brought up, an Eagle grant or loan, and then the redesign considerations that I've been talking about, kind of reworking it to be more financially feasible. And that is the conclusion of the parking garage update. Happy to field any questions.
Open it up to council for questions regarding the parking garage.
I'm curious, through the chair, sorry. I'm curious about the conversations that have been happening. Are we looking at the city operating the garage, but the developer is owning the structure and basically, you know, you'll pay us a certain fee to do the work and you make the profit. I'm assuming that is the agreement that we're looking at, or is there conversation about like the city leasing the garage and trying to profit off of the garage?
It's the second one. The city is looking at entering into a master lease agreement for a certain number of years that would guarantee these spaces, a proportion of the spaces for public parking. In order to do so, then those spaces have to be subject to our parking oversight. We would be responsible for managing those spaces, collecting the revenue on those spaces, and then that revenue should offset our costs for whatever the leasing fee would be. It has to be neutral for the parking system. The details have not been worked out yet, but that's the concept.
Through the chair, when you work out those details, I would love to see an analysis of what we would expect in terms of the overall parking revenue based on the fact that we have data about the parking situation over there from our last parking study as well as the previous parking study. It's just a little bit nerve-wracking hearing that we would be entering into an agreement like that.
Our parking director is actually performing that analysis right now.
Awesome.
Excellent.
And through the chair, just a quick question to your team.
Of course.
Would you be at all potentially amenable to the idea of affordable business rental, given that that's going to be mixed use? And we have heard from some of our business owners in the downtown that rents have been rising. It would be amazing if we could make this a twofer and you could have affordable housing in one and affordable rental rates in the second one. Again, something to consider.
Definitely worth considering. I appreciate that rent is going up for businesses, and an affordable product for businesses would be is needed in the community. I don't know what it does to the cash flow and the, you know, which we can talk about the operating budget related to the retail, but definitely open to the conversation. I think it's a good idea.
Any other questions? No, anything? Okay. All right.
Thank you very much for the time tonight. Appreciate it.
Right. Right. So now we're coming to the point of our meeting where we're having call to audience. We ask that anyone who'd like to speak, please come to the podium where you would have 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address, and that call to audience is open right now.
I was hoping Joe would give us all a chance to say this, but I think Helene, myself, and Kyle would be more than happy to take a call from any of y'all if you're interested in learning about any of these projects related to at least the Oakland County stuff. Text me.
Evelyn Elster on Wild Wild West Drayton again, my POV. 37 years ago, I was fortunate to buy a home in a lower middle class city which supported outstanding essential public safety and DPW services. All that changed around 2010 when the narcissist took control of Ferndale. I had so hoped it would change with this new mayor and council, but the situation continues. Just like unsupervised silver spoon tweens at the mall, our leaders and department heads have bought an ever-increasing number of most expensivest toys, entertainments, amusements, friends, and lipsticks for the pig, as well as building monuments to yourselves while pushing maintenance and essential services to the back burner. All this to put a pretty face on the decay happening all around us. All on our dime. Always on our dime, because it's not your money you're spending, it's other people's money. Mommy and Daddy taxpayers' money. As if you've been shopping at Neiman Marcus on a TJ Maxx budget. The details of the financial waste iceberg here are far too numerous to list, but you know full well what has been done. The last mayor told us she was fully aware of the condition of our municipal buildings just before she proceeded to park the responsibility bus on department heads. Now that the neglect of our municipal buildings has become blatantly obvious, it must be addressed. You come to us asking for an increase in your allowance after having squandered those funds you've been given over the last 15 years. Gimme, 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 more, because adulting and responsibility is just too hard. Trust us with more. We know what we're doing. No, you obviously do not. The smart folks have been leaving Ferndale since 2015. I was distracted caring for my mother at the time, and if I had managed my mom's finances the way you've managed our taxpayer funds, she would have been destitute for the last 10 of those 16 years. Through the promise
Good evening, Aaron Friedman, 150 Vester. I'm the owner and operator of Folio Offices and ACI Transport, and I just wanted to come here tonight and also express my support for the Vester Flats project. Really echoing a lot of the positive comments tonight. More customers in the area. There's going to be more customers for our business. I've also been a member of Anytime Fitness for a long time, and again, it would be a boon to a lot of local businesses to have another 70 to 100 potential customers right next door. I know the construction period might be a potential pain point, but on the other side of that, it'll be a good development for downtown Ferndale. It'll look a lot nicer than the current parking lot that's there, and so yeah, looking forward to seeing the project go through and be finished. Thank you.
Yeah, Dennis Augustin, 1550 Spencer. I just got one question. Is there going to be enough police and fire to accommodate these new extra buildings, this new extra housing, all these extra people that are going to come in there? Because those are the guys that are going to go in there and do a job that you and I won't do. They're not, they want to go home to their families. But then again, they don't know what they're getting into. My grandson was, happened to be at the end of his ball game last year, this past summer, out there 59 in DeQuinder, out that way, when that one guy was shot, Oakland County, and that. And I mean, we're losing our law enforcement because they don't want to, they don't want to come back in. They don't want to stick with the, being an officer of the law. We need to know that we've got to have some sort of security here, we as the people. I've been here 40 years. That's longer than some of you guys that have been around in life. And then, I want to know, is this going to be a safe place for me to live? And I am retired. And I'd like to live out my retirement. But I just want to know, is this going to be a safe place to live here with all this apartment, pound housing, whatever, call it what you want? Are we going to have the police and fire? Are we going to have those people there when we need them? Okay? I am all for supporting them, and then I know it costs a lot of money. It does. But I just got to know that they've got to be there, because you guys ain't. You might show up afterwards. You might question the police chief, the fire chief, about what went on, but you ain't going to be there when the initial problem takes place. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Terry King. I'm the owner of Territory, which is at 22840 Woodward Avenue. And I am the former owner of the Vester Flats parking lot. I don't really have a prepared speech here, so please bear with me. Of everything I heard here tonight, I got to tell you guys, speaking very plainly, you wouldn't believe how many offers for that parking lot I had over the years that I owned it. Then along comes Matt and Michael Oaknine. Out of everything I've heard from everyone here tonight, everyone sees as the big developer come along, and they may feel like, oh, these guys are full of it. They'll just tell you anything. But I just want to tell you my experience with these guys. Totally above board in any and everything they said and promised. And that wasn't just the one deal that I did with them. we've had a number of smaller deals along the way. And I was very impressed with Mike's honesty and his ethics. I hope this doesn't sound like a canned speech, because it's not, because I generally don't attend these things. But someone mentioned how the lot looks now. I owned it before and I maintained it very well. I'd really like to see this project move along, because it's harder for me and my clients, or I should have said, it's harder for me to explain to my clients what's going to get better. There's a proposed project, which I love, coming along that's going to get done. It looks, we really need to move forward. An opinion comes a dime a dozen, but I personally believe that this is a step forward for Ferndale. Not only the Vester Flats project, but also the parking garage. The one gentleman mentioned up here, yeah, it's going to be a pain in the duration of the construction. We all get that. But speak up to Mike and let them know what your concerns are, which you guys have been doing. And he will honestly make an honest effort to make it right, make us get through it easier. I operate a business there now. My concerns aren't as major as the other business owners, because my business is a business-to-business business. But if it means anything to anyone here, I am very happy that these are the folks I sold it to, because I did deal with some pretty sleazy folks in the interim. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right? Any more takers for call to audience before I close it? Okay. All right. We are moving now on to the consent agenda. Item 7A, approval of the August 26, 2024 meeting minutes. 7B, approval of the resolution proclaiming the week of September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. 7C, approval to backfill one police officer position. 7D, approval to backfill one DPW laborer position. 7E, approval of the text amendment to the 2022 licensing agreement for City Hall office space and services between DDA and the City of Ferndale. 7F, approval of the purchase of 2,500 reusable bags for multifamily recycling expansion for a cost of $5,425. 7G, approval of the resolution declaring the month of September as Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month in the City of Ferndale. And 7H, approval of the bills and payrolls as submitted by the Finance Director and subject to review by the Council Finance Committee. We'll need a motion for the consent agenda.
I move to approve. Rule of law and the power as well as the limits of government while enabling us to choose. It also implies the responsibility of its citizens to understand it and to support it. It is the oldest written instrument of democratic rule in the world still in use, inspiring many to come here and contribute to the nation that created it. It is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this seminal document and its memorable anniversary and to the patriotic celebrations which will commensurate the occasion. Public
More than a million women have joined the DAR since its founding in 1890. Nearly 200,000 members advance their missions of education, historical preservation, and patriotism. Last year's members around the world gave 7 million volunteer hours in service to our communities. The DAR has promoted Constitution Week since President Dwight Eisenhower signed it into law in 1956. We thank the city of Ferndale for your support. Right now, there may be a woman watching this meeting who knows that her ancestors supported the cause for independence. We encourage her to visit dar.org.
So this one's the shorter of the two tonight. The Hilton and 8-mile pressure reducing valve. First question is probably what is that? I'll get to that in the second slide. And we'll start with where our water comes from. I should have grabbed a picture of the St. Clair, Lake St. Clair in the Detroit River. That is where we draw almost all of our water from in this community. We're provided that water from the Great Lakes Water Authority. They serve about 125 communities and about 4 million customers. All of our water comes from the Northeast Water Treatment Facility, again, Lake St. Clair and Detroit River. It comes to us via a 54-inch water transmission main that runs down 8 Mile Road. There are 2 city meters. Our primary is at Hilton Road, and that is scheduled to be replaced this fall. And that's the GLEWA meter, so it works a lot like a residential meter, and that GLEWA provides us with water that flows through that meter, turns a gear, and then it tells us how much water we used as a community. Our secondary meter is at Wanda Street, and about 98% of our water comes through the primary meter at Hilton Road. So the Hilton pump station is the destination from that PRV, and then from there to your tap. So a pressure reducing valve, simply put, this is a picture of one. The one at Hilton Road has a 12-inch for high demand, and then in time to low demand, it switches to a 6-inch. On top, there's a dampener with a spring that kind of protects our system against spikes in pressure. Sometimes GLEWA sends us pressure above 55 to 58 psi, which is not good. It can damage our system, and this is what protects us from that damage. When the system is damaged, we can see additional water main breaks that wouldn't happen if we stayed in that ideal range. So when we get low pressure, our Hilton booster station increases that. And again, high pressure, the PRV should be lowering that pressure to protect our system. The PRVs installed, both Wanda and Hilton were installed in 1991. They're roughly 33 years old. We expect them to last about 35 years. So it is time to replace our PRV, and I do have some pictures that'll kind of demonstrate what some of this is. We priced 2 options. The first was for a new. The cost of a new was about $46,000. We assume that's going to last about 35 years, so that's about $1,314 per year if you break it down for the useful life of the equipment. Refurbished cost was about $33,000, and we assume that that'll get us 10 to 15 years. We'll use 15 years just to be conservative. That puts us at about $2,200 per year for that investment. We decided new made more sense financially. And it's just a more reliable product. So piping rehab is a big ticket item. You'll see why from the pictures, but all the piping that goes into the pit needs to be replaced. It's much older than 1991. We're not even really sure how old it is, but it's safe to say it's a lot older from the condition it's in. Right now it's currently holding up. Everything is working fine. So there's also ventilation. Ventilation is a huge item for underground pits, especially when they're pits that are damp and moist. You don't want metal staying damp and moist for a long time. That creates rust, and again, you'll see that. So the total plus contingency for this item, I think contingency was figured in at 10%, is about $136,000. So the price of waiting equals disruption of services and increased cost of replacement plus remediation for the emergency work. Jet Pump is a regional distributor for Clay Valve, and that's the maker of the PRVs that we have in service. That is why we have the one bid. We used HRC to price check that based on what neighboring communities are seeing. And Jet Pump is the regional distributor of Clay Valve. And I have 3 pictures I'll show, and I'll take some questions, but this is the PRV and the pit. The large blue item with the little, I guess, bell on top is what you would see, the spring and the dampener that protects our system. You can see most of these pipes are supposed to be black or blue. They are more brown. I'll point out, too, that the valves that are turned are mostly made of rust now, and we're very afraid to turn those, and there are times when you need to do that, and it would be nice to be able to know that they will turn and they will close and they will open. This is a close-up of one that is pretty rusty and pretty important. You see that's a 6-inch, so that's where low volume water comes through the city at. And then we'll just zoom into some of the hardware connecting the pipes to the PRV. You can see they're degraded, rusty, need to be replaced. And that is yes, that is the last slide. And I'll go back to pricing in case there's any questions.
Open it up to council.
Through the chair, I have a question, but it's indirectly related to this because we're talking about water and you were talking about meters. In the past, and we're probably going back about 3 or 4 DPW directors, we were, in reference to the our water reservoir on Hilton there, we were, what's the word I'm looking for? We were filling it back up in the evening when the rate is low and then using the water through the day to service the city, and then, because the rate is much lower at nighttime. We're still following that process, right?
That's correct.
Okay, because there was a point where we were just filling it up during the daytime and it was the highest rate.
Well, I can't speak to that, but I'll say that we fill it at night now. It's a 3 million gallon tank. We draw from it every day, and then we average about, if you're curious, 1.2 million gallons per day in the community.
Okay. And I just want to make sure that we were still following that lowest rate that fill.
That tank will typically last us, if we had to, and we weren't able to fill up at night, it would last us about 3 days worth of peak usage during the regular hours.
Okay. That's good to know. I didn't know that. Thanks.
So I'm looking here at the expected life of the PRV, and then the piping and valves around it. Did we meet that? I mean, before we were replacing it, did we?
Close. It would be nice to have gone 35 years. The condition of the piping around it, not to second guess decisions that were made 30 years ago, but it probably would have been a better investment to replace the piping and the hardware at that time. So 33 years is pretty good considering what these are connected to. But the last thing we want to do is wait until something fails.
Through the chair, now I have a weird question. Can we get a warranty on it?
I will double check the quote in the agreement. It will warranty the work, but I don't think it's typical to see warranty for outside of a few years. All materials have a lifespan. You could have a furnace, and that furnace should last 25 years if maintained properly, but if it's not maintained properly, or if it's connected to a system that's failing around it, it's just not going to last that long.
Any other questions? Need a motion.
A motion to approve the repairs and replacement of the pressure reducing valves at Hilton Road and 8 Mile by Jet Pump and Valve LLC for $100,000 with the expense charged to the Water and Sewer Fund capital outlay 592000, and approve the Deputy Director of Public Works to sign contract documents following the approval.
Support.
Kelly.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Polika.
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes. And I imagine you're going to stay up here for the next one. All right. Next is the lead line replacement program updates from DPW.
So this one's a little longer. Lead line replacement policy update. So back in June of this year, we targeted some LSLR updates at the behest of council. June and July, we're scheduled to upload a map to HRC or from HRC to the city website, refine content update schedule with communications department, collaborate with the EPA GLOW initiative, present ordinance recommendations to ordinance committee, pass some ordinance updates if supported, present progress update on lead line verifications funded by ARPA, policy language draft updates, excluding annual road paving program, consider new approach that prioritizes cost efficiencies, compliance, and funding. Most of these we have, if not completed, moved the ball on, and there'll be updates on most of these items during this presentation. So to start, we'll look at the website and engagement updates. The first thing that we did, one of the more important things that we did, was a update to the website. We took a new look at it with fresh eyes. We made it way more simple, straightforward. We added some lead education up front. We described our new prioritization approach. We have a spot for the map that should be delivered soon. And one of the most important things that we'll get to next is the self-reporting tool has been added, and we also have scheduling for the rest of this year, which has been up for a little while, and years 2 and 3, which are also included on the website. We'll get to those as well. But real quick, I will open up the website and just kind of give a quick tour. I will do this over again. Maybe. Bear with me, this is my first multimedia presentation. So the website we cleaned up, it was before well-intended, but it was a large wall of text. So we wanted to kind of break it up and make sure that someone could look here, get all the information they needed succinctly, quickly, and understand what's going on. So again, there's a little bit of lead education up front, our replacement priority, self-reporting tool, the map, which should be coming soon, a bit about where we're doing our external verifications currently, the replacement schedule that we're currently working on this fall and winter. And I didn't update it, but if I do, it includes 2024, 2025, 2026. And again, we will get to these in a little bit of detail, but they are on this website, and this is where they live now. So anyone that's curious about the next 2 years of the program can see it.
Sorry, through the chair, can you repeat how they can get to this page?
Typically, I always just say Ferndale lead service website, just to make it simple. Just Google that, or I can tell you to go to ferndale.gov/resources/lead-service-line-verification-and-replacement-program. So just Google Ferndale lead service line program, and it'll be the first or the second hit, provided it's spelled accurately.
Sorry, Jim, this is not to you. This is to Joe and Karen and probably Riley too. Why don't we, to the point that Jim just made about web addresses, can we look into doing sort of aliasing websites so that people can use ferndale.gov/lead or Ferndale, and that redirects to these pages? Because I do find that when I'm trying to direct a resident to one of our web pages, these are not easily communicated links. So if we could, just a recommendation, just a thought. Yes, yeah.
And I apologize to communications.
No.
Sorry.
We own it. No, so this came from when we switched to the new website, a little bit of inability on our part to understand that the way we created the names of the pages, we're going to put those in there. And so we have about 4 months where those kind of pages started. We're not doing that anymore. We'll see what we can do about putting redirects into place for some of those that still have them.
Okay, thank you, Karen.
So the big one for us, the resident self-reporting tool. I'll take a step back and I'll just show this is a graphic that everyone should be familiar with at this point, but in case they're not, The water main is what runs under the road that goes to a curb stop. This is often understood as the public side of the water service. From the curb stop, or where DPW will turn off the water by the sidewalk, to the meter is the private side. And coming out of the floor or the wall into the meter is what we are looking at when we say an internal verification. So now that that's out of the way, the self-reporting tool is just a short survey that reports the service line materials inside the home between the meter and the floor or the wall. It benefits the residents because it takes about 5 minutes. And until the actual construction takes place for the replacement, you don't need to see us, you don't need to talk to us. You're done. We've got the information, and then we will reach out if you're on the schedule, and we will schedule an appointment, and then they will show up to get access to your home to do the construction and finish your replacement. System benefits. So these are pretty clear. It is very cost effective. It doesn't cost the city anything to get these self-verifications done. And it fills in data that we do not currently have. So it helps us plan and prioritize the program going forward. So yes, there are no additional costs. And that's important because we do pay for these pothole verifications, and that'll come up later. It's about $325 per. And when we know that we have lead in a basement, that means that we know that we don't need to do a pothole verification, and we can just not spend that money. So how to use the self-reporting tool. Pull it up, but briefly, while I jump around foolishly. Why am I doing this? Quick and easy. You basically follow the instruction prompts, you submit 2 photos, and then the project manager verifies the information, and it's part of her data set. There's a PC option and a mobile option, and I actually have a few pictures set up ahead of time, and I'm going to try to run through the process, and hopefully I don't get egg on my face because I just said this is easy and simple. So for 521 East Camborne, I type in 521 and addresses start to pop up. I click on Camborne, it tells me the interior service line material has not yet been verified. I click resident submission as if I were a resident.
Through the chair. So I'm trying to do the same thing you are, and I noticed that if your Zoom is more than 80%, like the whole address where you're able to type in your address is out of the screen, and there's no way to like scroll. So you have to reduce your Zoom percentage to 80%. Well, at least for me, I had to, in order to get the address bar.
I will bring that up, the programmer. So this has been live for about 2 to 3 weeks. So there are kinks that we're still working through, and that is good to know because I will pass that on and we will take care of it. So once you fill in your information, you get to the how to determine your service line material. This is all pretty standard. If you've ever looked at like NPR's fact on how to do this, it all makes sense. You locate the water service line, you scratch the surface of the pipe, you compare the pipe to the chart below. If typically you'll have a lead pipe, copper pipe, galvanized, or plastic. Plastic's pretty easy. Lead, copper, and galvanized can sometimes look similar because if they're very old. So there's a scratch test, and the scratch test is very important because that's one of the required pictures. We need a picture that looks like this, it shows everything, and then later on we need a scratch test that shows either copper, galvanized, or lead. There's also a magnet test and then a tapping test if you can hear it well enough. There's also a link that will take you to a video that's very helpful. So if you are not able to identify it based on this, the video will run you through the process at a much more granular level. So then we have overall photo examples. These are the two options that I'm going to actually put in. I'm going to say our material there is copper. Actually, sorry, it's lead. Sorry to say for us. So the overall photo shows everything overall. Scratch test photo. Go. Shows the pipe with the scratch. And then I'll just say, because I did notice that there is a small bulb at the bottom, which is indicative of lead, small bulb located in smell right. I submit, it uploads everything. It emails myself, the project manager, that there's data that needs to be verified, and then he goes through and he verifies the data is accurate. And that is it. And we are taking feedback. If anyone does encounter any issues, formatting or otherwise, please call us and let us know. We want to make it as simple and easy to use as possible. Are there any questions about the self-reporting tool?
Has anybody used it so far? Have we had any submissions?
Yes, we have, and we're currently verifying them. I think we have about 25 or 30 submissions. And we haven't, so when we put it on the website, we didn't want to overwhelm in case there were issues with it. So we kind of just left it there, let it sit there. And as people found it and started submitting, we started looking at how email reporting went, how long it took us to verify some things. And we'll get to it next, but we have through the EPA GLOW cooperation, we plan on doing a little bit more of a formal rollout. We've been working with communications. It's on the website, and we expect to do some social media updating. And then it's part of our engagement plan. In October, there's a letter that goes out to residents that have unknowns, which I'll get to that as well. And we plan on making use of that as well to put that self-reporting tool out there. So to get the lead out and internal verifications, which we did in August. Back in May, Ferndale was selected as one of 5 Michigan communities for the free support from the EPA. Part of that process, a big part of that process for us is to do door knocking campaigns in which we get internal verifications. So on August 13th, leading into Dream Cruise, EPA and our staff knocked on doors to help homeowners verify their water lines. They knocked on about 1,435 doors. They got into 21% of those doors, and that may seem low, but it's actually pretty good.
Really good.
So, of those 21%, we verified data on 298 lines. 190 were copper, 23 were galvanized, lead were 83, and PEX was 2. So of that 298, 106, roughly 30% were lead and galvanized. Those are lead and galvanized pipes that we do not have to verify in the field now. We know they're there. They need to be replaced. They're off our list. Well, I won't say that. They're not off our list. They're on our list, but they're off our pothole verification list, which means that we can save that $325 or spend it elsewhere. So part of the GLOW initiative, we have another door knocking campaign that's going to take place in September 24th. In cooperation with this, we're going to put out QR codes for the self-reporting tool. We're going to hit that really hard. We're going to adapt our lawn signs and our door hangers to all have that QR code. So we expect that we're going to see a lot more than 30 this next time. So we expect to target about 3,200 homes. We're getting 18 EPA staff this time instead of 8. Based on the first door knock campaign, they did about 180 homes per staff member. That's why we expect to do about 3,200. 3,200 homes times 21%. If the access rate's about the same as 672 internal home verifications. And before I move on, I put together some numbers based on that. So if we end up verifying 1,000 homes, and of those homes, we get about 360 lead and galvanized. You multiply that by $325, which is our price per verification. That's about $117,000 in verification money that we potentially saved just from these 2 door knocking campaigns.
Through the chair. If people aren't home, are we leaving them information that they could then self-identify?
That is correct. We have a door hanger that is left on every one of these 3,200 homes, and it will have a QR code with a link to the self-reporting tool. Okay. So the next part of the presentation is the ARPA lead line verifications. And in addition to approving a contract extension, I believe that was May, which I didn't make note of, on the lead service line program, we also were approved, or City Council authorized us to spend $150,000 in ARPA funding for additional lead line verifications. These are the pothole verifications that need to take place to identify the service line material in the ground. So you can see there is a curb stop. We identify 3 feet to the private side and public side. That is what a pothole verification is. Why we do this, why did we request the additional, and why did council authorize the $150,000? To take advantage of current pricing and beat confirmed pricing escalations that we expect to see next year. So if you kind of look at it, we put together this chart that shows potential cost avoidance. We spent roughly $150,000 in ARPA funding to get an additional 462 lines verified at a cost of $325 per verification. We're seeing costs between $400 and $600 for vacuum verifications in other communities and in federal budgetary estimate guides. So if we assume that we're going to spend about $525 next year, that would mean that we would save approximately $100,000 just by doing this year. And I'll mention that this is work that we just need to do. We know we need to do it. So by doing it soon, it should save the city money. Lead line replacement policy updates are the next section of this. So LSLR planning and construction, just real quick, I wanted to show a view of what our project manager sees when he sees a street. And this is one of the things that we're trying to work through. The best way to put this on a resident-facing map on the website without being obtuse and incomprehensible. So blue on this map equals unknowns, red equals lead or galvanized, green equals copper, yellow are the internal materials. And if you look at the streets, East Maplehurst, which I believe is on the schedule, has very little data. We haven't done verifications there yet. We expect, based on the build date, that it is mostly lead. If we had self-reporting on that through the self-reporting tool, that would be great. That would help us plan. East Lewiston is a street that we have done pothole verification, and you can see there is a lot of lead on that street. And we'll get to kind of our block-by-block approach and why we do it that way going forward. East Camborne, you can see there's a lot of green because lead service lines were replaced in front of the paving. I believe that was spring of 2022, yes. So in 2021, when we put our policy book together, we had an infrastructure-based approach. The replacement of private lead service lines was primarily determined around current projects as articulated in the 5-year capital plan. That included the road improvement plan, water main improvement plan, and other determinations to meet replacement requirements set by the state of Michigan. We were in the middle of a 10-year paving program. And we are on the last year of that. Next year, we've already done all of the replacements in front of that program, and we are 2 years out front of our water main replacement program as well. And the goal then was to obtain cost efficiencies by aligning annual replacements with planned and funded infrastructure projects. We found that that was actually true. We did gain efficiency, and we expect now to shift somewhat to a block-by-block approach in which we go after the lead-dense blocks within the city. And you'll see 4 quadrants on this map. Actually, before I move on to that, I'll say density is the amount of lead surfaces per block. And we'll see the same efficiency and potentially cost reduction by keeping the work in a tight group as opposed to spread around the city where we're picking up 1 or 2 per block. We added some quadrants. We actually use these quadrants for a lot of what we do. It just kind of naturally falls along Woodward and 9 Mile. So the first quadrant is northeast. You go around clockwise. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll look at that a little bit later. But the second thing that we really looked at was equity. We didn't want to start in the north and finish in the south, or start in the south and finish in the north. We decided that we would use these quadrants to select 2 to 3 heavy lead blocks per year going forward. And that gives us a pretty good mix. The trade-off of shifting away from an infrastructure approach means that we're cutting into newer roads, and that's an unavoidable consequence of progress. It just has to happen. But the good news is we have had to do that before, and we know that most of these road repairs are aesthetics versus function. The road is good. We are making the repairs properly. Those roads are going to hold up. The life of the road is not really going to be decreased very much as long as we continue to maintain them as we are, and we continue to put them back together in the way that we're putting them back together. You will notice some squares that don't match the roadway, but that roadway will be flat and drivable, and it will look great. Well, it won't look great. I just said that. It will feel great under your tires. And without further ado, 2025 LSLR street forecast. So this is on the website now. And I won't read every single one, but I will point out that we've got 3 in the northeast, 2 in the southeast, 2 in the southwest, 3 in the northwest quad. So we plan on doing that going forward in all of the areas, again, around Woodward that we know are 1920s blocks. 2026 is similar. We have 3 in the northeast, 2 in the southeast, 3 in the southwest, 2 in the northwest. So the 2-year lead line improvement program does live on the website now, and I wanted to show a sample of a 2026 street. So just to take a look at that forecast. The build dates, again, predict high concentration of lead in older areas, and verifications will confirm that. Pre-construction, just a reminder on what this looks like for residents. Pre-construction, we're prioritizing our streets, using the information, materials, getting some more self-verifications done, and then we're using that to prioritize going forward to understand better where our lead-heavy streets are and to minimize any surprises we might find. Construction, notice and access agreements are sent out 30 to 6 days ahead of schedule. The work is then scheduled. The resident will typically fill out their access agreement, contact a project manager or myself. They will eventually get in touch with the project manager, and then they will schedule their replacement. When the work is performed, it takes about 4 to 5 hours. There is no water at that time. It is very atypical for work to take longer than a half of a day. After that work is performed, you will have copper from the main to your meter guaranteed, and any internal repairs where the pipe comes into the home will be repaired on site that day. There are times where they do need to return, and there is a warranty that says that they have to come back and make things, restore things inside the house. Post-construction, project manager gets there, he inspects, he verifies, he includes that data in his data set. The plumbing inspection occurs, the exterior restoration, which is your lawn, that is done, and you shouldn't have to worry about that copper under the ground for 75 years to. And then, as you can see, this is 2026 street. It starts at Woodward, ends at Gainsborough. This is one that we hope will decrease cost because of the efficiency. We'll have a contractor that can just come in, start there, and end at Gainsborough. So in sampling and state rule changes, this is the last section. So now that I've kind of laid out what we need to do for verifications, program, where we intend on going for the next 2 years, I do want to mention that And I probably should have mentioned this earlier since it was submitted to the state a few months ago, but our consumer confidence reporting. This is something that we do every year. It's a state requirement, and it is what we use to display the quality of the water in Ferndale. The 2023 CCR looked at fluoride levels, nitrate, lead, copper, chlorine residual, trihalomethanes, haloacetic acid. Those were all within safe levels. That water is tested by us and GLEWA, our water source, monthly, quarterly, annually, and GLEWA actually checks daily. We had one from our lead and copper sampling that was over the action level, and that was replaced immediately as an emergency replacement. So a little bit on lead and copper sampling. That is due this September, so very soon. We have 30 lead service addresses that are selected at random throughout the city. We do a first leader and fifth leader draw. The first leader is testing what's right there, and then the fifth leader is coming from the main to your home. Reporting requirements can increase when we exceed the action level of 15 parts per billion for more than 3 homes, sort of. It's a little more complicated than that, but if we're above the 90th percentile, there's additional reporting requirements. We have to double the year's preceding tests, and we have to scale up from 5 to 7% replacements. Addresses over, so as our policy is, anything over 13 parts per billion, while the state doesn't require an emergency replacement, we require an emergency replacement to be performed regardless. Anything above 15 parts per billion, again, the state requires a replacement. 2024 testing, we so far have 1 above the action level that is scheduled for an emergency replacement. It was pretty close to 15 parts per billion. We have 4 tests in progress. We don't expect them to be high. So hopefully in October, we'll be talking about being at the regular sampling and testing levels. And in 2023, we had 1. 2022, we had 0. Real quick on the October EPA changes to lead and copper rules that we expect. Big change, the most important one probably is the lead action level is going to decrease from 15 to 12. If we're over 12, that'll require 60 tests, 7% replacements. They're also adding a 5th leader. Michigan already does that, so we'll be ready for that one. Future lead is coming down. Eventually, it's going to be 10 parts per billion, and we're going to get into a situation, I think, where most communities are going to be doing that double testing and 7% accelerated replacements. So in context, 2 to 3 years of increased testing is what would have been required if the rate was 10 parts per billion for 22, 23, and 24. The other big consideration is the timeline will be decreased from 2041 to 2037 to replace all lead lines within the city. Another one, October 14th, we will be required, we're still waiting on some of the language for that letter, but we will have to provide notice for lead, galvanized, and or unknowns to all residents in those 3 categories. And again, we will make use of our self-reporting tool, and we will add that on those mailers as well if the state allows that. So next steps, September and October, which are already here, rule changes are reviewed, exceedance testing results are expected. Again, we have 4 tests out. CIP projects will be submitted soon for planning. Policy language is currently being updated. We're looking at funding. We have applied, and I think we should hear back soon on whether we successfully applied for the revolving loan fund, which again, we took out in 2021. I believe it was a 3-year, $10 million loan that we used to do close to 2,000 lead service line replacements. November and December, we will have our annual replacement needs finalized. We will have bonding and funding recommendations presented to City Council, and we should have our schedule forecast finalized and communicated, which actually we're a little ahead of the curve on that one. And I will say that the schedule forecast is pending funding, of course. Funding could change the amount of streets we're able to do in a year. That's all I got.
That was a lot. Okay. Any questions from council?
That was an excellent update. Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of information.
I think there's no action required tonight on that one.
Correct.
No, I just, through the chair, I just want to comment and credit Jim and HRC for the amount of work they did. We presented in June, and there was a lot of focused updates
do have any questions, please, the fastest way for an answer is to call DPW at 248-546-2519. The best second option would be to send us a C-click fix, and we can respond to that immediately. That's it.
All right, and then finally, our Community and Economic Development Director, Roger.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. This is just a quick update on the code rewrite. So I'm happy to kind of tell you how we will finish this out, hopefully in 2024. So we have some dates for you. This is in response to Kyle's email Thursday or Friday to Council and Planning Commission. So we're going to be sending out a letter to property owners whose zoning is changing what I call substantially. So parking to residential, commercial to residential, residential to commercial. We'll be sending out a letter to them, letting them know of the code rewrite. And I don't know how many people that is. We should be sending that out tomorrow. And based on that feedback, I'll kind of know how the community is feeling a little bit on that side. But so far for dates, we have September 21st. Kyle, Christine, and myself will be having office hours at Desert Oasis, September 21st from 12 to 2. Where council or planning commission can come talk with us and ask us any questions about the code rewrite at that point. So there's a devoted time to electeds and appointed officials to come talk to us. On October 2nd, we have a scheduled workshop between Planning Commission and City Council. It's going to start at 5 o'clock at Incubizo for the community open house, where we will invite council to listen to citizens give feedback on the presentation. We haven't planned that out yet, whether we're going to have little stations based on the topics council directed us about a year ago to have, which was downtown design, racial equity, housing diversity, and sustainability. There we go. Thank you, Riley. Or whether it's just going to be a little more open house type thing. We haven't settled on that yet. But we invite council to come listen to what the constituency has to say. That'll be from 5 to 6:30. And then at 7 o'clock, we'll come over here for a joint workshop. We will have an introduction about housing in the beginning of it. We're still planning that out. And then it'll be kind of an open dialogue with Chair Foster leading that. And from there, we will plan out the rest of the year. It will require a planning commission recommendation. So maybe a special meeting at the end of October, October 23rd maybe, or somewhere around there. And then it will require 2 public hearings in front of City Council. One counselor did ask for a printed copy of the zoning rewrite. I myself cannot visualize it online, 200 pages. So if anybody would like a printed out version, okay, there's one. Would anybody else like a printed out version?
It was me. And I will say that Roger delivered it to my house. Thank you, Roger.
I will deliver it.
Above and beyond.
Does anybody else want a printed version?
I would, Roger.
I will bring 2 over to your houses tomorrow. Any questions about the things we have scheduled or anything at all on the code rewrite so far?
Through the chair, what was that second date, the Joint Planning Commission Council meeting?
That's October 2nd.
October 2nd.
So 5 to 6:30 at Incubizo, and then 7 o'clock to about 9 here in council chambers. All right, thank you.
Floor is yours, Mayor.
All right, so we will go to my left. We'll start with Councilmember Polika.
I have nothing this evening, Your Honor.
Councilmember Johnson,
I also have nothing this evening.
Mayor Pro Tem Makowski,
Also nothing this evening.
and Councilmember Kelly.
I feel like I should say something. I just want to thank Jenny and the DDA team for their. So sad to see it coming to an end, but y'all did such a great job, and it was really wonderful to see after week and enjoy music and games and community. So it was really great.
Well, other than I'll be seeing some of you at convention, MML convention this week, then we can kind of just collaborate and learn from other communities and bring back ideas to our community, which is what which is the sole purpose of that convention, to meet new community members, leaders connecting with one another, and we bringing back ideas for the betterment of our community. So I look forward to that. And with that being said, this meeting is adjourned at 9:53. Thank you.
Yeah, yes.
Later.
All right, see you there.
Okay.
You guys have fun without me.